Hey friends, this is the Meme Team podcast where we talk about the logic behind virality because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture. And our podcast decodes both. Let's talk about Tom Holland.
Yeah, so we're talking about Tom Holland because he's Lego's newest ambassador. And
Yeah,
we love Lego here. Uh,
yeah.
so it was basically he appeared in a commercial titled Never Stop Playing. Yeah, the premise of playing even as you're growing up and being an adult and different types of job. I thought that was really fun because it's like true. And then obviously we've known and we've seen that their adult audience is growing of like, the people that are buying sets just as an adult as opposed to, for kids all the time. So it's cool that they're kind of focusing on that demo in order to make them feel seen and as part of like a community that they want to welcome and to hopefully continue buying more Lego sets.
Totally. It totally works because he has his boyish charm, but
Hmm.
also, being best known for Spider-Man, which is a character in a franchise that appeals to both kids and adults.
Hmm.
So, great spokesperson. I will say, though, one thing that really bugs me about the commercial is the way he clacks the bricks together instead of snapping them together to attach them. That personally bothers me. I'm sure they talked about it a lot during production, and maybe it looked too clunky to like press two things together. But
Yeah.
that's what I personally would have wanted to see.
I really liked that they showed the different types of like Lego sets. One of the ones that like really stood out to me is just because I like the flower sets are when he's like the art director. But there's also like the different sets for like gamers and for like, superheroes and stuff like that. So I thought that was really cool to appeal to the different, people that like the different types of sets. So that was really fun.
Yeah, yeah, that was sweet.
Cool. And then the next one, I just a small call out here, just because we're been talking about Mamdani and Cuomo, but Cuomo posted this very pixelated JPEG last week about things that Mamdani's doing. You really couldn't even read what was written on the photo, which was really funny. It just kind of like I think I saw a tweet like a little bit ago saying that his social person has to be like a sleeper agent for Mamdani because like the way that they're posting on his behalf is actually messing up the campaign. It's just a lot of like boomer energy, the whole idea of like the PDFs and like JPEGs not being able to figure it out. So I wonder if their social person is just a little older.
I wonder, maybe it is a jaded elder millennial who's just
Yeah.
trying to get through the day.
Exactly. So just like really funny. On a happier note, Cat's Eye's Better in Denim campaign has received over 400 million views and 8 billion impressions across all platforms, the Gap CEO reports, which just goes to show like how popular that ad is and Cat's Eye as a group itself. And I just saw that they're going to perform at the pre-show for the VMAs. So it's really showing that their US audience is growing.
It's cool. And I feel like it's a couple things at play, right? It's the Cat's Eye and K-pop fandom. Not that Cat's Eye is K-pop, but it's sort of in that adjacent kind of universe.
Mhm.
But one, the fans of Cat's Eye, but also tapping into that nostalgia
Mhm.
that I think a lot of people really missed those dancing ads. So
Yeah.
it's fun to see. I mean, I know I did, right?
Mhm.
And I know that like when it went viral, that people were talking about those historic ads, and it's fun to see it come back in this new way.
The one I really wanna see is the Audrey Hepburn one. Do you remember those?
The Back to Black?
Mhm,
Yeah,
yeah, when they
yeah.
had the whole, like, outfits and, like, and, like, the dancing. I forget what movie it is. I think it's
It's Funny
the
Face, I think.
is it?
I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah, those are the ones I wanna see.
What I really liked about that one was that it was actually Audrey
Mhm.
Hepburn.
That's true.
So if they could just re-air that ad, that'd be great.
Yeah, right? Might as well.
Yeah. Maybe when
Do
maybe when black skinny pants officially come back, we'll see it.
I know, right? Waiting for the day as a millennial for skinny pants to come back.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's start on the first topic of today. I wanted to highlight Sabrina Carpenter on Good Morning America talking about her album release, and she made what I thought was a really funny comment about not caring about what Tommy from Arkansas thought about her album and the album covers, which kind of got a bit of controversy just because a lot of people thought that it wasn't sending the right message. And for me, I thought just her coming out and saying that she doesn't care about some random person who is not actually her target audience is exactly what companies should be doing, right? Like you can't appeal to everybody and you shouldn't. So the fact that she's just like full on just like owning it is just something I think that a lot of brands can use for themselves. That the main thing that you should be focusing on here is making your target audience happy and having them understand where you're coming from and what it is that you're building. I also like that it's just kind of shown her progression as like being like a Disney star to being a more like grown up artist, you know, through it all still continuing to grow her audience. So it's like showing that you can have an evolution of like your brand of like where you started to like where you're going, and then through the process continue keeping your core audience happy and then growing a new one as you're building, because you're still keeping true to yourself and like what you think and like how you're, you know, building your audience.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing like, about good marketing, right? That like every product or products aren't for everybody
Hmm.
necessarily, right? And in this case, the Sabrina Carpenter brand, her music, you know, what she's all about, it's not for everybody.
Right.
And the sooner that brands embrace that, you know, the better off they'll be. Of course, there are some products that everybody does use.
Yeah.
In those cases, you know, like soap, right? But I'm
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
even then they still have their core demographics. But yeah, I like that she was acknowledging like, yeah, this isn't for this person.
yeah. Hmm.
However, that being said, I think the irony is that Tommy from Arkansas probably loves her album cover. Maybe not her music, but
Right.
probably has a poster of that album
Yeah.
hanging up
Well,
on
that's
his
been
ceiling.
interesting, right? Because part of like what I've been seeing, even the like the controversy behind the album cover, it's funny to me that she mentioned it being a man, as opposed to most of what I saw was women saying that like, oh, she's, you know, pushing feminism back or like she's sending the wrong message. It was illuminating because you could see both sides kind of argue their points that I don't think she was actually trying to make one
Mhm.
way or the other. It was just kind of, you know, she's kind of putting that out there. And, you know, she did come out and speak and say, oh, you know, like people need to get out more. Like that's not even what I had intended. It's just how you know, had been thinking about it. And I think that that's something that we've seen with a lot of artists these days, right? Where they're kind of, you know, put something out and then people read into it a little too much and then they, you know, take it one way or the other. And so that's building on this whole idea of like being parasocial with like artists who are, you know, trying to push the boundaries. That's a lot of what they do and they're trying to explore who they are and what they're doing and all that. Um and I feel like with her, it's been interesting to kind of see how she grew so popular last year. And I think part of it is because she created a specific persona where it's just more for the female gaze, not the male gaze. But part of what I had started realizing is that, yes, she is kind of going more for like that female gaze, which I think is following more along the lines of what like Taylor Swift has been doing, right? Where it's like, you know, she's creating music more for a female audience versus for like the male audience. And I feel like Sabrina Carpenter is also like following up. But I also see it as like she just, you know, won 2 Grammys for like her last album. So I feel like she's trying to push that boundary now that she can. You're also seeing it in how she's creating music and like her lyrics, right? Like, cause her lyrics all kind of have like jokes or like, you know, play on like words that she's, you know, saying. Like her music videos, like she's usually killing a man or she's killing, you know, Jenna Ortega in that one music video. So that's like part of how she kind of is playing with like her audience. And I think her audience is along with her on that journey.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not following her career super, super
Mhm.
closely, but I have felt like she's come up in the past year. She is conventionally attractive, walking around with no pants and stuff.
That's
I
the
like her
Met Gala
songs.
appearance.
Yeah, I like her songs, you know,
Yeah.
but also that she is very clever
Mhm.
in all her wordplay. Like she is really funny. So there's something about it that while she is conventionally attractive, and I mean, I think she does appeal to the male gaze, but in doing so, she also has this sort of knowing aura and
Mhm.
vibe about her where it makes you think that she's above it at the same
Mhm.
time or like she's in on the joke. So
Right.
I think she's been a lot of fun to watch. I think what was confusing about the album art was that it looked like it was very much going full tilt into the male gaze and
Mhm.
like this is the kind of sex appeal that she's wanting to convey now, which she's free to do. That's her
Mhm.
art. What was tough about all that discourse around feminism was one Did she say it was feminist? I don't think she did.
No.
I believe it was not feminism. However, I'm not saying that's what she said, right? Like,
Right,
that's
right, right,
I'm
right.
not putting words into her mouth.
Mhm,
What I believe is it's her art. She's free to do what she wants. She's free to express herself how she wants to and
mhm.
to create the art that she wants to make. But do I find that liberating for myself as a woman? No, 'cause I don't
Yeah, but I
think
mean
it's
that's a
for
lot to
me.
put that's a lot
Yeah.
to put on an artist that it's like, "Oh, if you say you're a feminist, then it should be like, this way." I think that's part of, the argument of feminism is that you're able to have the different opinions and not one thing is feminist versus another.
Right.
Um,
That's true, right? It's like
mhm,
it's about freedom, but the other thing too is that it's supposed to be about like true feminism, right? Isn't it supposed to be about addressing the patriarchal structures that uphold the conventional things,
mhm,
right? So ergo by appealing to the male gaze, going into that direction of looking like a submissive person in that album art, that's not feminism
mhm.
because it is playing to the existing patriarchal structures, and she isn't doing anything to dispel that. And again, I'm not and what I
Yeah.
say is, I'm not saying that she said she's going to do that or
Mhm.
that she has to. Like I said, she's free to do as she pleases. I just believe that that's not feminism. That's all.
So she kind of addressed that in the Good Morning America interview. She did say that it was a metaphor. She said, "If I'm being completely transparent, I don't do anything anticipating what the reaction will be. When I came up with the imaging for Man's Best Friend, it was so clear to me what it meant. So the reaction is fascinating to me. You just watch it unravel and go, wow." She kind of ended up turning around because then she released a couple more variants of the album cover. One of them she kind of like trolled and said it's God approved. What kind of, she's just kind of like pushing back on like, this isn't
Yeah.
about, people's reactions or like the way that they think about it, which on the one hand, like makes sense because like she's an artist, she's like wanting to do that. But on the other hand, it's like she is, a public figure and people are gonna have opinions on like what she's putting out there. So I think that is similar to like how brands and like companies should think about like what they're putting out there. Like I know it's like really difficult to like recognize what's going to be positive, what's going to be negative. A lot of the times, a lot of the ideas that we're putting out there, they're meant to be positive, right? Like we're just thinking about it. I mean, just even thinking back on the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle controversy, right? Where it's like, I don't think that they had meant for it to become that negative of a thing, which kind of showed in how they responded. Somewhere with the Cracker Barrel response, right? Like where a lot of these things become controversial and then they kind of have to figure out how to respond like last minute. One thing I liked in the way that Sabrina Carpenter responded was with humor, right? It was just kind of like pushing back a little bit, trolling people. And that kind of fits like her brand. So she's built that brand around herself that like she jokes around a lot. She has a lot of play on words and that's included in her music and her persona. I mean, one of the ways that I started hearing about her was I heard Espresso obviously, but she had that little riff that she would change every for her concerts, right? And it was like sexual in nature, but it was like funny and humorous.
Yeah, it was I think it was the song "Nonsense," and she would
Hmm.
change it for each country or region that she went to.
Yeah.
So, for instance, she was in Australia,
Hmm.
and she changed the line to "When you go down under, do you miss me?"
Yeah.
So it's always some kind of pun
Yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah.
clever little joke about the country. I thought it was really funny. I
Yeah,
mean, I
yeah,
I thought
no,
it was great. I
definitely.
liked it.
Exactly. And then for the I think when she went on tour, what she was doing was like different sexual positions at like each concert. So it's kind of part of her brand that she does this. The main lesson here is how you respond, like your strategy should match your brand voice and like what people expect from you. And I think that that's one thing she did well here. Another thing too here is how she's like resisting that urge to please everybody. She's, really honing in on her core audience of like, these are my fans, they know me, they know what I do, and they're going to follow me on their journey. And so far she's been right? She's they've kind of, come out to like defend her, defend the artwork work. And in the process, she's also been growing an audience because she's, maintained her core audience, continue to like make art for them, the music for them, but then bringing in new people because she's staying true to herself and like what she's, putting out there and like her whole vibe and energy. So I think she's doing that really well.
Yeah, I think that's what makes her so fun to watch, it's true that she isn't trying to appeal to everybody, she isn't trying to please everybody, and she isn't apologizing for who she is.
Yeah.
And I think that's fun to see
Hmm.
for, even if you're not a true fan,
Hmm.
it is she's interesting and she's
Hmm.
fun to watch.
It's also consistent, right? Like the sexual innuendo and then like the fun, it's mixed into everything. Like the music videos, like she's using those as a way to like show who she is. And I think that's a really interesting way of being an artist these days because like there's so many more options that you kind of have to do something to stand out, And I think she's kind of gotten that figured out.
Okay, so speaking of standing out, we have a YouTube announced a new feature. It's called their Hype feature, which is a way to allow people to more directly influence the algorithm. So, from their blog post or from their statement, it's if a video has been out less than 7 days from a creator with under 500,000 subscribers, you can hype it, which means going beyond liking and sharing. The more hype it gets, the higher it climbs on a new leaderboard with the top 100 hype videos from the week. Anybody can hype up to 3 times per week. In the future, we plan to allow fans to purchase additional hypes, unlocking another revenue stream for creators too. So I think it's interesting. I mean,
Yeah.
I really like the idea of helping smaller creators grow,
Hmm.
allowing them to enlarge the pie, so to
Yeah.
speak. But we'll see. I mean,
Yeah, one of the problems I'm seeing is that I read the announcement as well, and they're going from accounts as low as 500 followers to 500,000, and that's a huge discrepancy between like the audience that will be able to participate. Obviously, I mean the algorithm kind of helps you grow, and like we've seen that with our YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, if you're closer to like 500,000, it's a little bit easier to get your audience to start hyping you. So it just kind of puts you at an advantage, right? Versus like the ones that are 500. So I wonder if maybe that'll be a thing that they test in the future, whether it's like the hop from 500 to like 5,000 or, kind of break down the brackets a little bit more in order to make it a little bit more it's not fair. I mean, because obviously this is a new thing, but I don't know, make it a little easier for the smaller accounts to continue growing.
mhm. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think where I'm a little bit wary is that users will be able to purchase additional hypes.
Yeah.
So it's pay to play ultimately. And it's because obviously it sounds like creators will get a piece of that money
Hmm.
because they said it allows for another revenue stream for creators as well. I'm going to assume it's going to be a small amount of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, we'll see in that it's ultimately going to be pay to play. We will see who the early adopters of this are and
Hmm.
how people are leveraging it. I mean, the obvious way to exploit it would be to just spend all that money, right? To
Hmm.
just have a bunch of accounts that you buy additional hype for, or, I could imagine someone having like, 300,000 YouTube subscribers, but also having some kind of Patreon where they let me tell people like, hey, I'll reimburse you for your if you buy additional hype, who knows?
Yeah. Keep
So
coming up with these ideas. Maybe we use some of them, Amanda, for our account.
I don't know how much the hype costs. I don't know if I can
Yeah,
afford
right.
it.
Yeah, I do wonder, like right now, where it's not, pay to play, how it'll work in order to kind of hopefully it does actually help, creators a little bit more. And then hopefully that kind of helps them set up what will eventually be the process. Because yeah, anytime that some, new way of like doing this kind of comes up, it's like, okay, you got to start thinking about the downsides because it's like there's so many ways to kind of take advantage of the system. I mean, it used to be you just pay for followers, but then now people are paying for engagement, replies and likes and all that because like that's what the algorithm now rewards. So how is this going to get, gamified in some way in the
Right,
future?
right. That too, and I also wonder what other platforms are already eyeing this and considering copying it.
Yeah.
'Cause I
I
could see
mean, so this
Spotify
is
doing a version.
right. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, though, I mean, obviously, all of these platforms need ways to kind of bring in more money. So if in the process they're helping out creators, then maybe that's a boon for everybody. Because this is kind of described as Twitch meets TikTok's creator fund. So I do like that they do seem to be approaching it slightly different. Because for me, just kind of like what you hear about, it's like YouTube is still like one of those channels that it's like it's actually helping creators grow. I mean, I've heard a lot of creators say that they now focus almost entirely on YouTube instead of TikTok because they get more payouts from YouTube. So this could be another thing that helps people, stick to YouTube or and bring some of the TikTok people over because they want to grow their audience and want to do it in a mostly organic way, right? I mean, that's the thing too that I think about, like as a creator now, you kind of do want to have those organic audiences that are like following you and hyping you up, right? Because it's like that's how you grow your actual audience as opposed to growing a bunch of bots. And honestly, I mean, if I'm a user and I have a creator asking me to like go hype them up like inorganically or like trying to like pressure me into it or make me feel bad in order to do it, like that doesn't make me think kindly on the creator. So maybe that's just like a thing that has to, is it like a moral thing? Is it an ethical thing? Like maybe if we, can rely on like the morality and ethics of the actual users, um, that can like kind of counterbalance the wanting to buy all the bots to like, fake your hype. But
Yeah.
maybe I'm thinking too kindly.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's why, like, we'll see. I think especially before they come out with any sort of pay-to-play option, it might be an interesting way to track trends because it'll be a new mechanism for it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, just even like thinking about as growing our YouTube channel, what are ways to do that right? It's like we obviously don't have a problem asking y'all to give us reviews on Apple Podcasts or like Spotify. So would this be the next thing that we just ask you to hype us on YouTube when you're
Probably.
on there, like that? Maybe that becomes like the next thing that like creators start doing to kind of get y'all to help us grow, right?
Yeah,
And
most
that doesn't
definitely.
necessarily right, and that doesn't necessarily
Mhm,
have to be like an icky thing. I think part of it is like that's kind of what I'm going up against here is like how icky this kind of feels. But I mean, the whole point is like if I'm thinking about a creator that I like, then yeah, I want to hype them up and I want them to like grow and like get more money from like, these big corporations that are using their content to grow their own platforms, right? So I
yeah.
think if we're able to think about it that way and put ourselves both in like the eyes of yes a creator who wants to like grow but then also as a user who wants the creators that I love to grow and like find new audiences, then thinking about it in that way, I think this is a great program because it's new and it ultimately would reward creators that are creating content that people want to
I
share.
think so, yeah. Something that I think is interesting about this is that depending on how you look at it, it could be chaotic good,
Mhm.
chaotic evil,
Yeah.
could be neutral
Mhm.
because it's not the same thing as liking something
Right.
because you could theoretically you
Mhm.
could hype a video and not like it. Like you could think, "What an insane thing that this person produced.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hype it because this is crazy and I'm gonna
Mhm.
show it to people." But it doesn't mean that you like it. It means
Mhm.
maybe you think people should see it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, kind of the way that like Twitter is, right? With the whole idea that like my reposts doesn't necessarily mean I agree with it, right? It's just, it has to get out there. More people should see this. And I do think that it's smart of YouTube to try to create a new way to engage with something. Because, yeah, liking and not liking, it's not, what does that do ultimately?
Mhm.
One thing I do like about this is like maybe this is going to shift how virality happens. Like right now, a lot of us, like, we're just kind of relying on YouTube and the algorithm to like do stuff. And that just seems all like, ooh, the algorithm's doing what it's going to do.
Mhm.
But if this is a new way for people to hype up a video, like if there are enough people hyping it, that pushes it outward and that gets more like audiences, maybe that changes the way that the algorithm works, which, gives a lot of opportunities to marketers who do have like YouTube strategies to start thinking about the ways that they want to engage with people in that way.
Mhm. Yeah.
But, yeah, until we get 500 followers, we can't really use it. So,
Yeah.
we'll be keeping an eye on it. But, yeah, this is another excuse for y'all to go follow us on YouTube so we can grow our audience.
All right, and our last topic of the day is
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about Lionsgate and how they're promoting the long walk. So some of you might have seen that they're turning the movie theater into a treadmill walk where you have to walk at least 3 miles per hour throughout the entire thing, or you risk getting kicked out. So it's essentially bringing the movie's premise to life. Who like the characters in the movie have to maintain this pace or die. So at least you don't
yes.
die.
Yeah. So the
You just have to.
the
Yeah,
movie's based on the
exactly.
Stephen King novel, published in 1979. I didn't know it was that old.
That's wild, yeah.
Where, yeah, in the movie at least, it's 50 young men who have to continuously walk along this prearranged route, or failure to do so results in them getting shot. They get 3 warnings, I believe. I think they already did the screening, and I think it was only a one-time thing. But
Yeah.
I wonder if moviegoers had the similar warning where
No, yeah,
maybe
right,
they
the
had
3
3
warnings.
warnings, like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
had to go to the bathroom," and that's, like, one of the warnings, like, "Oh, I have
Yeah.
to go buy popcorn."
Yeah.
Second warning, And I think the reward was getting
Watching
to
the whole
watch the whole
movie.
movie,
Mhm.
which is great. I thought that
Yeah.
it was super clever. I think that's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
I wish what? I think more movie theaters should do this in general, get us
Yeah,
walking.
right? I know, those of us that work from home have already heard of treadmill desks. Why not treadmill, like, movie
Yeah,
seating, you
I
know?
would totally do this, and, if you're one who is inclined to walk,
Mhm.
then putting that treadmill at a 3 is not a big deal.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah.
Um So part of what I like about this is it's kind of, bringing up what we talked about last week, the whole idea of adding a little friction to experiences. This is a lot of friction, right? It's like you have to literally walk on a treadmill at 3 miles per hour for the entire duration in order to watch the film. So it's creating this experience of, wanting to compete obviously against the rest of the movie theater to make sure that you're one of the ones that actually finishes. It's very shareable and it creates buzz because I've seen a lot of people posting about it. Actually, Patrick Schwarzenegger posted about this as being amazing marketing. So shout out to the team, because this is amazing marketing. It's getting, us to all talk about it. And I also want to call out that just like we did last week with weapons, is that a lot of this experiential marketing and like all the innovation that's happening seems to be in horror movies. There's Megan, they did the TikTok dances, Barbarian did fake Airbnb listings, Smile, that like the MLB stadiums, you had people like with the crazy like smiles. And then for weapons, you had both the website, but then you also had the kids running around to like get that attention. So it's like a great way to kind of promote the movie without sharing spoilers from the film, which we've talked about here, right? Where it's like we
Yeah.
don't like that trailers share so much information and like so much of like the scenes that happen in like the actual movie because it just kind of prepares you to watch that while you're there. So I think this was a lot of fun. Oh, and then also the Final Destination log car, which we talked about as
Yeah.
well. So, props to them for kind of, thinking outside the box for this and like really making it an interesting way to think about the movie.
Yeah, I think where it works really well for horror movies is that it's a type of genre where people aren't looking to have their minds changed, or they're not looking for some kind of philosophical truth to be elucidated, right? People normally watch a horror movie for the experience of it because it's
Hmm.
fun to be scared,
Mm,
because it's thrilling. And
yeah.
so it lends itself really well to shared experiences or just physical types of events.
The only thing here is that we haven't seen any like videos or pictures from inside the theater, which is I
Yeah.
think the only miss because it's like, well, how are you promoting it aside from obviously talking about it, but there should have been a little something that happens within the
What if
movie
it didn't
theater.
go well?
Yeah.
I was also trying to look up any news coverage on it, but
Yeah.
the funny thing is that the news coverage, even news coverage from yesterday, from September 1st, still just talks about this special screening being on August 29th, which
Oh,
is funny because at this point, it's been
a couple
more than a
days.
couple
Yeah.
days. You would think there'd be coverage on
What happened?
I went to
Yeah.
the screening, here's what it was like,
Yeah.
or we talked to 3 people who went, 1 person didn't make it all the way, I don't know.
Mhm.
So maybe it didn't go
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, now that's making me question because you're right, I haven't
But
seen
I think
anything.
it's fun. I would have loved to have gone.
Yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
should
yeah,
have invited us.
yeah. Mhm, yeah. Well, that's what we're trying to do here, build up our, movie credentials so that eventually we start getting invited to these experiential marketing type things, right?
Yeah.
Because you would've I would've gone to the K-pop thing as well, right? To have that sing-along experience. So I think that's something else to think about here where it's like, what experiences can you have as people are watching the movie that enhance the experience and don't necessarily, like, take away from it? Because I feel for this and the sing-along, people that sign up to do it are going into it understanding that there might be some disruption from like the people that you're going to, right? And it's not something that would happen at a normal movie where you want to have, quiet and you don't want phones turning on and you don't want, people talking or anything like that. But these, it's like people are signing up for that specifically as part of the
Yeah.
experience.
Absolutely. And that's super unique about the K-pop Demon Hunters sing-along. It's
Hmm.
no one is there like, "Oh, don't tell me what happens next," right?
Right.
The whole point is that everybody saw it.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I thought that that was like really cool, and I hope to see more movies kind of think about how they can do this as like a premiere and have it be like its own special thing,
It's
because
gonna
it seems like a
happen.
lot of people are super interested
Yeah.
in participating.
You know what? Dune 3, everyone needs to ride in on a sandworm.
I do remember that, they did promote that like there was a guy who showed up in like the sand dune, or not, sorry, not the sand dune, who's wearing the sandworm. I think it was like a motorized thing that, and he had like the costume on. So maybe more people will start doing that.
Yeah, and they should, charge people for rides on their sandworm.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so takeaways for the Sabrina Carpenter, Tommy from Arkansas moment. I think what really stuck out to me here is when you're building a brand, how you respond to controversy, both positive and negative, should fit with how you've been building your brand. Like there's ways for you to react one way or the other that like fits who you are. And that I think shows people that you're still staying true to yourself and that the ones that like you are your actual like audience. So keep going after that. I think the second thing here is that it's okay to not be for everybody. Like,
Mhm.
especially when you're small, like, and you're still kind of growing, you're showing people who you are for them to then come find you and like you for what you're creating for them. And then as you grow, you can kind of start to think about that differently. But for the most part, you'll still be like who you are and your brand is still going to stay the same. You're just going to be showing more people and that's who you're gonna be bringing in, but they'll still be your target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, effective branding is when you acknowledge that you're not for everybody,
Hmm.
right? It's you taking a point of view, getting people to kind of choose a side, and it's about resonating with people in a way that they truly feel seen. And if you're
Hmm.
gonna try to make everybody feel seen, then nobody will feel seen.
Mm, yep. What is that the phrase about if you're gonna be for everybody, you're gonna be for nobody,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly, exactly. And then for YouTube and their new hype feature, the interesting thing to me is it's just another layer in how the YouTube algorithm will serve up content to us. So I'm curious to see how that will be, how that goes. It'll be interesting to see how this evolves from free to pay to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, I like that they're focusing on getting smaller creators more traction and like more attention. And I think it's smart to approach it in the way that gets people to want to help the creators that they love. And I think if they can keep that aspect to it, it'll continue being good. For everybody, right? Because it's like we want to have more diversity in content in terms of like the types of content that's being created, the different types of like creators that are out there. Because right now, a lot of it just seems like, oh, you just have to already come in with like an audience in order to be big, and then the big ones are just going to be big anyway, and then the smaller ones have to work that much harder to like, get that attention. So hopefully this helps to create new creators that are, that have audiences that love them and want to hype them up a lot.
Yeah.
And then for the long walk, yeah, just the whole idea of like, how are you creating in-person experiences that go along with like the digital marketing that you're doing? Because it really seems as if people want to participate in things, especially unique things. FOMO is still like a really big way that you can like attract people to, what you're building. So how are you kind of including those in-person elements to get people to participate with other people that want to do the same thing that they're doing, like watch the movie here, or like we talked about last week with like going out for the Mamdani campaign for the scavenger hunt, going to the K-pop, event. Like all those things are just showing that people want to be in-person events. So just kind of figure out how to do that like makes sense for like what you're promoting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also just bearing in mind that we are still in this post-pandemic era
Hmm.
where people are hungry for fun, unique experiences. And yeah, to the extent that you can, figure out how you can tap into that in a way that is natural, a natural extension for your brand.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So that takes us out for this week. If you like this episode, please hype us up on your
Yeah.
public social media. No, but also subscribe if you aren't already. And please consider leaving us a 5-star review because, independent podcasts like ours really benefit from that.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can find us at Meme Team Pod on YouTube, and then at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify. And we just launched on TikTok if you want to follow us there as well at Meme Team Podcast. So we'll see you there.
Yeah. See you there.
See ya.
Bye.